The July 7th, 2025 Auburn City Council workshop will be called to order. The first item of business tonight is an update on the Community Resource Center by Mr. Holmes.
July the 15th. Ooh, that got loud. Construction's coming along well. The carpet was put into the offices last week. The vinyl floor is going into the hallways this week. IT is scrambling. Everyone's scrambling to make sure this all happens. We picked a date a month ago, and everything has gone perfectly smooth since then. I'm sure you will believe that statement. And but it does look like we'll be all set. We'll be getting our occupancy permit hopefully on Monday and then move in on Tuesday. But everything's been checked, and it looks like everything's coming along well. The drop-in center has been hitting new records on a pretty much regular basis. We did have a cooling facility in partnership with the drop-in center a couple weeks ago, and that went pretty smoothly. I think that once we have staff there and everything, we get a lot of things worked out. I'm hoping that as we move forward, we'll come up with enough volunteers to the drop-in center to be able to do something where they'll be in charge of it. Obviously, once we hit the policy criteria, then the city will step up and do what it's supposed to do. But it really went smoothly. We had a lot more volunteers than we expected to show up that day. As far as the kitchen, that is still could be the last thing that will actually happen. The YMCA and us have an MOUs for the grab and go program to move there and to have their food pantry there. That's going well. We have leases out to several of our partners that are being voted on by their boards and committees and things over the next 3 to 5 weeks. We're hoping with our move on the 15th that we'll be followed shortly thereafter by some of our partners as early as August 1st, and then the rest hopefully no later than September 1st to get that filled out and have things moving over there. Still working on some of the security things. Every doorway has a door, but some of the doors will have to be replaced again simply because they don't have the right doors in yet. Some of those things were held up, but we were able to use keys instead of key fobs, and we'll be able to have security there to make sure everyone's safe and separated and those kind of things. The showers are getting closer. What we have determined, though, is that we need, as originally planned, the bathrooms in the big room need to be redone. So we will take the men's room out of service there to redo that. Once we have those showers, the showers won't be working, but the bathrooms that are associated with those showers will have. So we'll have enough bathrooms. We can still have men's and women's. And then once that's done, we'll flip it and they'll do the women's, and then that'll swap out. So that they're hoping to have that all in place by the end of July, completely done and ready to go, so that we'll have the showers available for the drop-in center on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So I know some people are interested about the fence. We've got the pricing on the fence. We're still going back and forth on exactly where to start it, where to stop it, things like that, but it is still part of the plan. That's kind of where we're at. It's later than we hoped, but we're on track. There's been a lot of things that when we found out how many people and all that stuff, they're going to have to put a whole new water line in to upsize that line to provide us the quantity of water we're going to need to have all the people that we'll have in the building there for the types of uses that we're going to be using it for. So that kind of came out of left field a little bit, but we were able to make some adjustments, and we're still moving forward. My goal is still not to have to come back and ask you for any more money. So, questions?
Question by the council. Councilor Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to the grab and go and Y program and the food pantry with the drop-in center, is it going to be, have you worked out the kinks of who's going to use the refrigerators or freezers so that there's going to be boundaries? And like, is the Y going to be there a full week, or are they going to fall in between or the same time as the drop-in center?
So take your questions one at a time. How's that? So what we decided to do, instead of having the walk-in cooler and walk-in freezer, is we've moved to more mobile units. And where the walk-in cooler and freezer and dry goods storage was going to be, there's going to be 6 very large rooms. and the Y will have one or two of those. The drop-in center will have one or two, and there could be another player that comes to the table that may need a room. So there'll be a space for their dry goods storage and their refrigerator and freezer storage. They will be completely separate, lockable for them. The current plan is that the Y will be operating their food pantry on a day that's not Wednesday or Saturday.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions by the council? Council Walker.
The fence, do you have some kind of a date? That's the big question we get from the people living next door.
So I want to be clear. Yeah, I mean, as far as a definitive date, no. But at the same time, I mean, we're talking about a 6-foot fence. So, and that other building is elevated. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that this is not going to be a 12-foot fence you can't see over from the first or second floor next door. It will be, right now we're looking at a chain link fence with the inserted slats, so it's a visual barrier, but at the same time, if something happens to it, it's much easier to repair and less expensive than a vinyl or wooden fence.
Other questions or comments by the council? Great, thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Holmes. The next item is update on the Tribo Field and the Land Lab. Assistant City Manager Dute.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. So I just wanted to provide a very quick update on Tribu Field and, they said, the Land Lab. We currently have an agreement with Evergreen Outdoor to operate Tribu Field, maintain and operate Tribu Field, that Evergreen Outdoor owns that parcel of land. We operate that, we maintain it, and it is used strictly for youth sports. That's our current agreement with Evergreen, and what they are looking to do is they're asking for, what's that? There we go. So, there we go. So Evergreen has approached the city to expand on this agreement. This is Tribu Field. This is where we currently, again, we operate, the city operates that, and we conduct youth sports on that field. The owner of Evergreen owns this parcel of property. They've built about 3/4 of a mile of trails on this property already. And what they're looking to do is gain access to this parcel, or this piece of the parcel that's owned by the city that holds East Auburn Community School. This is the area that they would like to gain access to. The agreement would be similar to what we have. They're responsible for the maintenance, all the activities, the scheduling. That type of responsibility falls on them. There would be no responsibility for the city or school. We're very early in these discussions. In fact, I've got a meeting scheduled with the assistant superintendent, the owner of Evergreen, and staff to talk about what the access management in particular will look like, where parking, those kind of level of details, make sure that there's a good understanding about what this access and the public access and what type of programming will be going on out there. So there's just a good understanding. So this is really, again, I think just early in the process. I wanted to give an update to the council, get any feedback, if there's any questions. But ultimately, we'll be looking to set up the same arrangement if we can get agreement and understanding with the school and understanding about access and how that will look and manage that and get a general agreement there. We will be looking to put an agreement together that gives, like I said, access to that portion of the parcel, similar understanding of we're responsible for all the maintenance and upkeep and any investment and scheduling of this property. If we were to get to this understanding, a similar agreement would be for this parcel, that they would be fully responsible for all the maintenance, upkeep, and any investment, as well as any communication around it. Open it up to questions, but that's where we are.
And Evergreen's intention on the city parcel is to double the trail area they have, and then to reinstate the land lab activities in that area.
That is what they've proposed, is to, like you said, double the current trail system to a 1.5 mile loop, as well as reestablish the land lab as quickly as possible, but that's their goal and vision.
Other questions? Councilor Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Dennis, for the presentation. You mentioned it's early on. So recognizing that, at this point, do you have any concerns or any things we should be thinking about that you think might be a reason not to do this? It seems like a good deal, but...
Yeah, I honestly do not have any immediate concerns. As you said, I think it's early, and sometimes as we work through the process, there might be some things we need to work through. But Evergreen Outdoor has been a good partner with us up to this point. I think the Tribu, we really wanted to see how that would work, and it's been very successful. We've been holding youth programming out there. I mean, if there's a complaint or there's an issue, whether it be parking or whatnot, I think staff have worked with Evergreen to resolve those in a pretty quick manner, and I think it's been a good relationship, so much so that's why we had the confidence to bring this forward and look at another opportunity, because what their goal is certainly to develop something that is open to the community. These trails are accessible for not only the East Auburn School, that obviously will have it right there, but the entire community, and they're motivated to do that. We thought it was a good asset, but potentially for the city.
Great, thanks.
Councilor Whiting.
Thank you. I'm not familiar with Evergreen Outdoors. Have they taken over the assets of East Auburn Community Unit, or?
No, they're in the trail building, I guess, outdoor programming world. This is what they do, and so they purchased this property from the community association there that had it, and they actually, when they purchased it, had this vision kind of outlined, at least on the current parcel of the trails, and now they just see the opportunity for an expansion opportunity.
Councilor Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in other words, we're not going to, at this point, sell it outright. They're just using it. And then you'll be coming up with some sort of agreement that they can use it for X number of years with maybe a rolling contract. And then if something happens and we bring back the school or something we need to do, then we can phase them out if we desperately had to.
We will not be selling the property. We will have that option, absolutely.
I mean, I think it's a great opportunity as well. I just got to get some of these little questions out of the way.
Great question.
Thank you much.
Councilor Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pickleball court. When you go up there to go to that, I think in the future, we probably should do a little work to clean that up going in. I think it's been something in the making for a long time, but it just hasn't really happened. The trees, bushes, the junk that's right around it as you go, and I'd like to see that be part of our plan going into that.
Will do.
Other questions or comments from the council? Not seeing any. Thank you very much, Mr. Dutay. The council has 3 executive sessions. The first is an executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA Section 405, sub 6E for a legal matter. Is there a motion?
Motion to move.
Moved by Council Walker. Is there a second? Seconded by Council Wisner. Vote will be by show of hands. All those in favor? The council will be in executive session. Thank you. If we can have the councilors introduce themselves, we'll start with Councilor Walker tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Councilor Walker from Ward 5, New Auburn area.
Good evening, Ben Weisner, City Councilor, Ward 4.
Good evening, Jeff Harmon, Mayor.
Good evening, Steve Milks, City Council, Ward 3.
Good evening, Tim Cowan, Ward 2, City Councilor.
Rick's not here.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Belinda Gary, City Councilor at Large.
Good evening, Mubarak Abdullahi, Student Representative.
Phil Kroll, City Manager.
Good evening, Rick Whiting, Ward 1 City Councilor.
And Councilor Platts will be absent tonight. He's out of state. I think he's actually out of the country. So there are no consent items this evening. The first order of business is approval of the minutes of the June 16th, 2025 regular council meeting. Are there errors or corrections?
I would like to point out that I was in attendance at the adult education graduation ceremony. So beyond that, I would move acceptance with that correction.
Second.
Vote will be by show of hands. All those in favor? You're in favor, Councilor Weisner?
Yes.
So it'll be 5 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstaining. Councilor Cowan was absent at the prior meeting. So we'll move on to communications, presentations, and recognitions. So we have several summer interns this summer, 2 of whom are with us tonight. One is well known to all of us. Mubarak Abdullahi is here this evening, and Sophia Mohammed is in the back. Thank you very much for attending. We appreciate you participating. Abdi Adhow is not able to be with us tonight, but she will also be participating in the internship program this summer. Communications from the city clerk relative to the November election. Petitions for all of the positions, mayor, city council, and school board are now available in the clerk's office. Petitions with valid signatures must be returned by August 21st. Mr. Cousins is here, and he will give an update on the septic inspection program for Tier 2 in the Lake Auburn Watershed Overlay District.
David, actually.
Mr. Hettiger is going to provide this. You are almost off the hook.
I know, that's what I get for showing up. So the second letter went out, as you folks are aware. We are now in year 2 of the mailing for the watershed out there. Mailings went out last week. Nothing really new to report other than if anybody is watching or listening to this at home and they're in the watershed, do your inspection, especially if you're in year 1 or year 2. I think to date, between us and the watershed, we've only received 3 inspections so far. So that would help us not have to do another reminder. And we will be doing a reminder. There'll be another reminder for both year 1 and 2 going out later in the fall. But we were both expecting that we'd have a few more by now. We don't. That's what I have for you folks tonight.
Questions by the council? Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Hettiger. Of other note, today's the 76th anniversary of the untimely death of Officer Norman Philbrook in the accident here outside City Hall. Those that aren't familiar with that, Officer Philbrook was killed when 2 fire trucks were responding to a large structure fire in Auburn and a Lewiston fire truck, along with a couple of Lewiston firefighters that were killed. And a year ago, we dedicated a memorial across the street to Officer Philbrook, so we remember him today. I will move on to the first open session of the evening. If there's any members of the public that would like to address the council on items that are not on tonight's agenda, please approach the podium and provide your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Matt Harris. I am a resident and homeowner on Turner Street. So I have a couple of things I just wanted to get some answers on. The first one I have is about our trash service. So it seems like the last couple of months, services are being decreased or eliminated. Started off with the recycling, which I know we all have our own thoughts on that process. I was happy to see that you guys reconsidered that, brought that back. Then all of a sudden, brush service went away. Now we have to bring our brush to Poland. Don't really understand the need for us to bring it to Poland. Public Works seem to have the equipment to be able to manage that properly. And then on top of that, we got told that our bulky service up at Mid-Maine Waste was eliminated. So I'm just trying to figure out why all of a sudden all these services are being taken away. I have friends that live over in Lewiston. You know, I did a little bit of research on how they manage it. They have a really nice program over there. Each resident's given £1,000 per year to take over to their facility, free of charge. I understand that it is a cost to the city, and I'm fully aware of that. I'm not asking for unlimited services like we had in the past, but I really think that as a city, we should look at ways that we can address this, both conservatively on the financial aspect of it, but also helping our residents out. You know, I know of other cities. I have a friend that lives in Port St. Lucie. They have a really nice program. They also do curbside bulky trash pickup, but instead you go online, you register for it, you pay a fee. Either, I don't know if it's the city or if they have a private contractor, they'll come by and pick that up as long as it's been registered with the city. So I'm just inquiring kind of what your thoughts are and where the process is on why that service was eliminated.
Thank you very much. Just as explanation for the public, so brush pickup was eliminated by the city several years ago and can be dropped off in Poland, as the gentleman pointed out. Bulky waste had been some time ago reduced from annually to biannually to a pilot project for drop-off at Maine Waste to Energy. In the recent, there was issues with that program. In the most recent budget discussion, funding to pay for that was not included. There was lots of apparent issues with non-Auburn residents dropping off trash, with contractors dropping off trash that the city's taxpayers were paying for. My understanding from the budget discussions is that the city manager and his staff will be looking for ways with Maine Waste to Energy to be able to have a drop-off program like we had the last 2 years that's more controlled, so we can make sure that it's just Auburn residents and the cost is controlled. The cost of the pilot project far exceeded what the council had expected. So that's my understanding of the current situation, and the whole discussion of bulky waste and what potential solutions there might be, I'm sure will come up again next year in the budget discussions. Thank you very much.
Okay. The other thing I have, and this, I don't know if this is more of a code enforcement thing, is that, you know, I'm noticing more and more of buildings that have had fires in them that are now starting to deteriorate throughout the city. Do we have any protocols on how we're handling that, and what are the processes of that? Because I have friends that have commented on it as well, particularly on the Washington Avenue area, which I know is a hot topic for you guys.
So the city has a derelict building ordinance. The code enforcement officers work through that. There are significant legal hurdles that have to be met in order for the city to take action. Often a lot of buildings that are seen, you know, after a fire or whatnot, if they're not going to be rehabilitated, code enforcement takes action. It takes quite some time to bring those to fruition. The council has been working on a vacant building ordinance that's going to come before the council at the next council meeting to help deal with vacant buildings that deteriorate but may not have reached the derelict stage. So that is for the public an understanding of the current tools that the city has or that the city is working on.
Okay. And then the last thing is, I was talking to a police officer up at Walmart, and they mentioned about how, the maintenance on their vehicles, it seems like they have a very long lifespan. They only replace 3 or 4 vehicles at a time, and that they're constantly having either maintenance issues or broken down issues. I understand that's part of the budgeting process and whatnot, but I do just want to make it aware that I think that as a city, we should be providing our fine men and women of the police and fire departments the proper equipment to be able to do their jobs. I mean, unfortunately, I know it's not anyone's fault here and whatnot, but it's really a hard pill to swallow when services are being taken away. We're being told that, public safety equipment needs to be replaced and whatnot, taxes are going up, but then we don't have an adequate police or fire station, which I know is being dealt with. Fully support that measure. You look around, our roads are in desperate need of repair. Just the one out front here needs to be replaced. So it's kind of as a taxpayer and as a citizen, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow that all of this is kind of happening all at once. So I appreciate you guys giving me the explanations on that stuff. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much for coming. We appreciate your input. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to address the council on any item not on tonight's agenda? Please approach the podium, provide your name and address. Not seeing any, the open session will be closed. We'll move on to unfinished business. The first item is ordinance 0206162025, amending Chapter 2, Administration of the City's Code of Ordinances to create a permanent homelessness committee. This item had first reading on June 16, 2025, and it was amended to add a additional position for veteran services provider. That's included in the item that's before the council tonight. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Gary. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Councilor Cowan. We'll open public comment. If there's any member of the public who'd like to comment on this item, please approach the podium and provide your name and address. Not seeing any, public comments closed. Discussion by the council. Is the council ready for the question? The vote will be by roll call. The clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Weisner?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
Yes.
Counselor Whiting?
Yes.
Counselor Cowan?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
Yes.
6 having voted in the affirmative and none in the negative, the motion is adopted. The next item is ordinance 0307072025, amending Chapter 60 zoning of the city's Code of Ordinances pursuant to Section 60-307 dimensional regulations in the general business and multifamily suburban zoning districts. The council and the public will recall that this draft was transmitted by the council to the planning board for their review and recommendation. The planning board reviewed this, made no substantive changes. A member of the public suggested several grammatical changes, which the planning board adopted and has recommended passage with those grammatical changes. Just a note, there was an inadvertent error and the updated copy wasn't in the packet. That was corrected by the clerk and was in the updated packet. Is there a motion?
Motion to move.
Moved by Councilor Walker. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Cowan. If there's any member of the public that would like to make comment on this item, please approach the podium and provide your name and address. Not seeing any, public comment will be closed. Discussion by the council. Is council ready for the question? The vote will be by roll call. The clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Gary?
Yes.
Counselor Whiting?
Yes.
Counselor Cowan?
Yes.
Counselor Milks?
No.
Counselor Weisner?
Yes.
5 having voted in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, the motion is adopted. The next item of business is Order 5907072025, approving the use of 67 Kitty Hawk Avenue as a temporary fire station for the City of Auburn. The Council and the public are reminded that this is part of the plan for the construction of the new public safety building on Minot Avenue, which allowed us to have a single-phase building instead of building that's in the building in two parts. The current ordinances require submission of assessment by the applicant for any public safety building not on the site of a current public safety building. Chief Chase has included that information in your packet. Is there a motion?
Motion to move.
Moved by Councilor Walker, seconded by Councilor Whiting. If there's any member of the public that would like to comment on this item, please approach the podium and provide your name and address. Not seeing any, public comment is closed. Discussion by the council. Is council ready for the question? Vote will be by show of hands. All those in favor? Opposed? 6 having voted in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion is adopted. The next item is Order 6007072025, adopting revenue changes in the city's master fee schedule, Appendix A. For the council and the public, these fee changes are the result of the ad hoc fees committee's work prior to the budget process. During the budget process, there was a discussion of the change in fees to better align with actual cost. The council has booked the revenue already from these changes in this year's budget. We're in it now, FY26. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Geary,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Walker. If there's any member of the public who'd like to address the council on this item, please approach the podium and provide your name and address. Not seeing any, public comment is closed. Discussion by the council. Council Whiting.
Question on comparability. Did we look at other communities for the fee structures that they have and how we stack up against them?
I think the individual departments did look at that. I think that in some cases they're less, in some cases they're more. I think that the baseline goal was to align, our fees cannot generate net revenue, but they can cover cost, and a number of these fees were significantly below cost, and that was really the goal, which was to understand the level of effort that's being expended by staff to undertake these activities and align the fees with the effort expended. Councilor Mills.
Yeah, so a question I've got is, so there's a couple of these are pretty significant, like new construction or an addition, a mobile home. It's $25 today, and we're adding plus 30 cents a square foot, which is 300, if it's 1,200 square foot modest house, that's another $360. That's a massive increase. Is that because, are we saying that's how short? Because we also, that house is also gonna have an electrical fees, they're gonna have plumbing fees, there's gonna be a lot of other fees piled on top of that. That's a big number. And there's a number of those that are like this in here, square foot additions, that there's some major percentage increases. It's a big number.
Yeah, I think that is accurate, that it's a significant increase. I'd remind the council that several years ago, the council took an action to dramatically decrease these fees with the goal that it would spur development. There's no evidence that occurred. So these fees are marginally higher than the prior fees because of the additional cost. So a lot of the increase in some of these is just level setting this back to the prior decrease when the fees were reduced significantly below cost. Part of the discussion in the ad hoc committee was whether it's fair for residents to be subsidizing these fees when they're not obtaining the benefit from that. And again, some of these are a significant increase, but they're to align the fee with this actual city's cost to provide the work. Councilor Mills.
Yeah, so an example, if someone is gonna put a 600 square foot addition onto their house, it was $25, and I believe we've had a number of people adding additions and things like that, Eric, right? Over the last few years. So now that price is going from $25 to $180 to build that addition. So, to me, there's a number of other things like that, and that's why I can't support this.
Other comments by the council? Is the council ready for the question? The vote will be by show of hands. All those in favor? Opposed? So the motion fails. So I would now expect a floor motion for someone on the side that voted against this to amend the budget, because you've already booked all this revenue. We had this discussion during the budget. You booked the revenue, so now we're going to have a shortfall. And so I'm expecting someone who voted against this to make an amendment to rectify the deficit that you've just created.
What's the deficit? If you're
Well,
sure, you're
with
certain that
three-
it's a deficit, so you've got a number in your head then, right?
Yeah, well, I believe in the budget, the city manager can correct me, I believe that the council booked $350,000 in additional revenue. Part of that was parking, and part of that was, and I don't remember what the split was. Part was.
Yeah, you have,
But it's all included in this.
I was gonna say, so you just took a motion across the board for all item changes. And so you did pass in the budget the additional code enforcement officer that was being offset by these fees. We also made changes as it pertains to recreation as a result of these fees, and the parking permits. So, as the mayor stated, you've created a deficit. There's not, there won't be an offset. Now, if you'd like us to go through and give you a breakdown of those, we can do that on what we would anticipate as being these impacts. But these are the budget numbers that were used, as the mayor stated, in building this budget and approved as part of the revenue.
So as it stands today, the deficit's $350,000. Councilor Gary?
Mr. Mayor, would a tabling motion for our good city manager to come back with a breakdown of some of these costs?
There isn't anything to table at the moment. The motion failed. If no member of the council wants to reconsider or make a floor amendment, we'll have the deficit, and I think the appropriate action by the city manager at that point would be come back at our next meeting with what reductions will take place in the budget to remove $350,000 from the FY26 budget. So we'll open the budget back up at the next meeting.
I understand we need a rate increase, but not as substantial as what the good Council Milk has discussed. Some of them jumped dramatically. So I would like a little bit, if we did bring this back, I would like to see it a little bit lower and then increased maybe in the next budget. But right now, this is too much for some of our homeowners if they would want to do renovations to their house.
So I'd remind Councilor Geary that the current rates are way far below other communities, because prior council, I think 2 councils ago now, cut these rates under the understanding it was spur development. There's no evidence that the change in the rates did anything to impact the rate of development. So I think that I think that we can provide information to the council about what we're storing the prior rates would be and what increase above that leads to the 350,000. But ultimately, without a motion from a counselor, the action will be to open the budget up to reduce it by $350,000. Anything further by the council on this item? We'll
I
move-
just to, excuse me, I just want to make sure I'm understanding that the purpose of these increases is to better cover the costs from the city, to cover the costs for permitting or review or things like that. So that right now we're at a deficit. We're giving people who are building additions a waiver that's being covered by other tax
Correct.
residents.
To use Councilor Milks' example, if it cost $180 to do the required inspections and we're charging the person $25, it's still costing $180 in expenses to provide that inspection. The balance, the $155 balance, is being paid for out of general fund revenue by other taxpayers in the city. So the exercise was to align the permit fees with the cost to perform the work so that the people desiring to have those inspections done would pay the fees and it wouldn't be subsidized by all the other taxpayers throughout the city. Is that clarified?
Yes, thanks.
Council Milk?
Yeah, so somebody builds a 600 square foot addition and they pull a $25 permit. Eric, are you suggesting that it costs the city $180 to do any work on that $600, that 600 square foot addition?
Thank you, Councilor Milks. There's no exact math. An addition that's poorly built is going to take a lot more time to get it corrected to meet code. An addition that's well built, the inspections are quicker and there's less time invested. But you could easily spend $180 worth of time on a 600 square foot addition. There is plumbing and electrical fees, but those are separate inspections. Like you mentioned, 600 square foot addition would require a foundation and footer inspection. So the inspector's out there at that point. An inspection for backfill, and then framing, rough framing. Potentially some corrections at that stage. There often is. Double check that those corrections are made. So I'd say 3 to 4 inspections by the time you get a certificate of occupancy. And if each one of those with travel time took an hour, 10, 15 minutes to get out there, connect with the builder, do the inspection, get back to City Hall. Sometimes we can do that a little more efficiently when we're stacking inspections in the same areas. But 3 or 4 inspections plus a vehicle, wear and tear, gas, easily could cost $180.
And is there clear evidence is it very clear that the reduced fees haven't increased? The mayor is claiming that it's very clear that the reduced fees haven't changed anything. Is it very clear, is it very obvious that you can tell the reduced fees haven't changed anything?
Yeah, I think there's so many variables that I don't know. I mean,
So you can't really tell.
We had a
whether
near
it's
record
changed
year,
anything.
our second best year ever this year that just wrapped up a week ago. And we had a previous year that was higher, but I don't think that $180 makes a difference in the decision to build or not. I mean, the cost of construction, a 600 square foot addition is probably $100,000 to $200,000 now. And it's still a very small percent. And we're still, with the adoption of these fees, going to be at or below the average for communities our size.
And that particular addition, then, what would be the value increase in their property taxes? That
Yeah,
person's going to pay higher property taxes. Is that not correct?
They would, yeah. I'd have to the assessor would really have to look at the plans and the finishes and all of those things.
So
But they would see
it's going to exceed the $180.
Very likely, yeah.
So the taxpayers aren't supplementing that building. Those people are going to pay additional taxes on that addition that will cover any of the inspectors at that point.
Maybe in the long term, yeah. I think it's just that it would cover the cost of that service that year.
So using that argument, Counselor Meltz, we should remove all fees from the schedule. Because if you build a new building, or you do addition, or you do certain renovations, the property taxes will go up. And your point is that we're gonna get more property taxes, so the fees don't need to cover the actual cost. If that's the case, why don't we just remove all the fees
Well, I was just
and let the
simply-
taxpayers pay for all of it?
I was just commenting that other people aren't supplementing that. It's the people are paying taxes. And I would say, I mean, there's an argument to be said, if the state of New Hampshire's budget 16 million and they don't have any income tax, and the state of Maine's, there's an argument to be said for reducing taxes, fees, things like that on people. Yes, it improves the market.
New Hampshire is the second or first highest median household income state in the entire nation, and they have plenty of taxes on other things. So to say that they're not making any income coming into the state, I think is really not as simple
I didn't
as
say
you're
no
saying.
income. I said their budget's 16. I'm simply saying that.
You're trying to
when you-
inter that a lower tax
Well,
in
he
a
said, should
state
you
that's
lower
more wealthy
fees?
is not getting as much income as the state of Maine.
One would
So,
argue they're wealthy because they don't tax their citizens.
So.
sure, but we're not anywhere close to the top median
we're
household
getting-
income.
We're getting off the topic here into a broad discussion of tax policy in New Hampshire, so. Any other comments on this? If not, the manager will come back in 2 weeks with the schedule showing the prior fees and what the increase beyond that is, and also you should be prepared for a discussion of reducing the current year's budget by $350,000 to cover the hole in the deficit that's going to be created in this current budget.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a comment in respects to that. If you're talking about parking fees and it's combined, I think that it's fair to say to separate out the parking fees because so you can see a proper breakdown. So if you don't do a proper breakdown, like parking fees or this is what we're expecting from parking fees or anything like that, that will help us make a determination in reviewing it. Because to say it's an overall is getting us back into an argument of saying, well, it's overall, well, the parking fees should be separated out so that we have a better way that as counselors we can look through this entirely and figure this out so we can come to an agreement and have proper negotiation.
We
Thank
can
you.
break it out by Parks and Rec, code enforcement, parking, and the and what the expenses are that are in there. As an example, on parking, we moved the parking officer out of the police department budget, which was being paid for by the general fund, and put them in the parking account, and the additional parking fees pay for that. If we don't have the fees, we'll have to move him back or eliminate the position.
Right, it would just be helpful for us to see that broke down. Thank you. Anything
Further on this item? We'll move on to the next item, which is Order 6107072025, an action regarding Maine Waste to Energy Board representation. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second? By Councilor Whiting, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Cowan. This is an item that, as the council is aware, Maine Waste to Energy has had some difficulties over the last couple of years and has used the substantial portion of their reserve as there could be potentially additional financial liability given the current interlocal agreements to the city. this item requires City Council to discuss and approve actions relative to financial matters at Maine Waste to Energy. If there's any member of the public who'd like to comment on this item, please approach the podium, provide your name and address. Not seeing any. Public comments closed. Discussion by the council. Is the council ready for the question? Vote will be by show of hands. All those in favor? Opposed? 6 having voted in the affirmative and none in the negative, the motion is adopted. We will move on to reports. So a couple items to report on the manufacturing tours that Mr. Brinchak from Economic Development has been facilitating. A number of members of the council and staff were able to have a tour of Future Guard on Merrill Road. Very impressive operation, a lot of innovation going on there, and certainly a growing business. It was a real pleasure to be able to tour their facility. I was able with staff to have a tour of the Maine mill construction. It's people will know this is the Museum of Innovation, Learning, and Labor. It's going to be right across the trestle as you go from Bonnie Park to Samard Payne Park in Lewiston. The work is well underway. A lot of the initial structural work's done and the framing out of the new addition. So we're looking forward to that being completed. My recollection is September. Is that? I think September was the date they thought that they would be done. Council Whiting might know if that's not correct. An update on the comp plan committee. They're finishing the inventory and analysis phase, and they'll be starting in on the community engagement phase. There are 3 public visioning sessions that have been scheduled. The first one is for the natural environment, so fields, forests, waters. That's going to be at Lake Grove Park on Fair Street on Saturday the 19th from 10 to noon. Second one, which is people and city services, so related to people, public services, that will be at Edward Little High School cafeteria on Wednesday, July 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m. And the third one is the built environment, so street structures and spaces. That will be at the Auburn Senior Community Center, Pettingill Park on Wednesday, July 30th from 6 to 8 p.m. That's all I have. Councilor Geary?
Oops, sorry. This isn't exactly a councilor report, but I would like to ask our city manager for a copy of the policy that's set in place for when we open cooling centers as well as the warming centers.
Yeah, I'm sure the manager will send that to you. My recollection is we just updated this about 6 months ago, but he'll send you an updated copy. Anything further, Councilor Geary? Councilor Whiting?
Thank you. Maine Mill will be having a fundraiser on August 1st. It's called Soirée en Blanc, and everybody wears white, and they get to see the new construction site at Maine Mill, right next to Jenkins Bridge. You can go on the website and sign up.
Councilor Connell?
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Councilor Milks?
Nothing tonight?
Councilor Weisner?
Nothing tonight.
And Councilor Walker?
Just have the manager send me a copy of that too. I'd like to know the warm and cooling.
Yeah, he'll send it to the whole council. Anything further this evening? No.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask one more thing?
Go ahead, Councilor Geary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When you mentioned about the walking bridge and stuff, I thought we had also voted that we were going to put a bench for John, in memory of John Jenkins there as well. Are we still doing that, or has that gone wayside?
Mr. Manager?
So I think when I went back to take a look at some of that discussion, it was about putting a bench partway across where that little bump out is. when we had some conversations related to that, there were some safety concerns regarding that because of the height of the railing. And so that did not occur. We can continue to look at, there's still funding in the Memorial Fund. We can continue to look at, is there a spot that makes sense right in there? But we do have seating that's near the Rocky Bonnie piece. And so the question is it going to be used and should we be putting a bench there? And so we'll continue to look at that. We'll come back to the council with a recommendation.
Thank you sincerely.
Sure, Council Walker.
Any counselor that would like to come to Waste Energy tomorrow, 12 o'clock, we meet. So if you want to come and maybe ask a couple questions or hear some of the things that we'll discuss, you're welcome to come and listen.
And that's the executive committee meeting?
That's the executive committee.
And that's right at the plant?
Right at the plant, yep.
Great, thank you. Representative Abdullahi?
I'd like to say thank you for, I'm freezing. Thank you for telling me.
Thank you very much. Mr. Manager?
Thank you. A couple things. One, for those who are available tomorrow at 4 p.m., Nutty Netties will be having their ribbon cutting. The assistant city manager and I did go to their location. This is their Main Street location. And so really encourage folks to come out, Maine and Court, be able to encourage this nice downtown business. They did a great job with the renovations. If you haven't been in there, it's probably the best it's been since back No Tomato days. That's how well they did. They took their time, but I think they did a fantastic job with that location. And it'd be great for our downtown. July 17th will be our second movie in the park at Festival Plaza at 8 p.m. We look to have a good turnout for that. And then the Police Department will be hosting the National Night Out on August 5th, 5:30 p.m. till dusk at Festival Plaza. So those are some some upcoming events just to make you aware of prior to our next meeting.
Great, thank you very much. We'll move on to the second open session of the evening. If there's any member of the public that would like to address the council on an item that's not on tonight's agenda, please approach the podium and provide your name and address. Not seeing any, the open session will be closed. The council has two executive sessions, one that was not completed earlier, and one that's on the schedule is item number 9. There'll be no action following either of these items, and the council will adjourn immediately following the conclusion of the executive session. So the first item is an economic development issue pursuant to 1 MRSA, section 405, sub 6C. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion to move.
Moved by Councilor Gary, seconded by Councilor Walker. All those in favor? Councilor Whiting? The council will be in executive session.
Manager, would you give us a report on how many people and what kind of a show they had for the movies?